Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in Fresno, California. Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley, and the Central Valley, the heart of the great state of California. Welcome to the show today. I hope you started your morning this morning by claiming the gift that this day was created just for you specifically, that as you were beginning to become aware of consciousness, as you opened your eyes in the morning, that you gave thanks for the good that this day is, gave an affirmative intention that this day is going to be absolutely the most incredible day that it has the potential to be in your life. You claimed that, owned that, and then you moved into the day, and I hope your day has gone as well as it should go. So, we've been going through a book by Ernest Holmes called The Art of Life, which was originally published, This Thing Called Life. Presently, we are, I believe, in chapter 6. Yep, chapter 6. And in the latter part of chapter 6, Dr. Holmes goes through the Lord's Prayer, and he breaks it down in a New Thought religious science perspective. And so I wanted to basically give a whole show to do that. So that's where we're going to go today, but before I actually start there, I want to go to the textbook, Science of Mind. On page 483, Dr. Holmes writes, he says, "Behind every effect there is a cause, and if this cause is a spiritual idea, which it must be, then it follows that should the spiritual idea be discerned, the physical effect would be like it. The entire possibility of demonstrating the law of good depends upon this proposition. The idea is the father of the fact. Ideas are real," he said. Oops. Ideas are real. Having the power within themselves to be made manifest. You know, we've been talking about that. That's part of what this book is about that we've been reading. It's part of what the show is consistently talking about. Ideas are real. Thoughts are real. Thoughts are creative things and forces in your day-to-day life experience. How your day manifests and unfolds and demonstrates, and how you experience your time during that day. Moving on, he says, the whole teaching of the Bible is to the effect that God is universal spirit, universal creation. He creates by the power of his word. This word is the law of his being. Man reproduces the divine nature on the scale of the individual. He also uses the creative power which works through the law of his word. From this, he cannot escape. He need only to use this power constructively, and all will be well. And of course, here he's using the male pronoun, but he's referring to all of us. Him, her, he, she, whatever. It doesn't make any difference, right? He says, if one uses the creative power of one's thoughts destructively, then it will destroy. How did you start your day? Did you start your day in an expectation of an incredible gift awaiting you? Or did you start your day maybe concerned, worry, a little doubt, a little fear about how things were going to unfold today? In the Science of Mind, we learn that persistent constructive thought is the greatest power known and the most effective. If the visible effect in our lives is not what it should be, if we are unhappy, sick, and poverty-stricken, we know the remedy. The truth, with a capital T, is always the remedy, and the truth is that the law of liberty is the only real law. When we reverse the process of thought, the effect will be reversed. And so as we move forward today and we begin to look at, when Jesus was asked about how should one pray, and he laid it out, we refer to Jesus as the master teacher, and throughout the year we've talked about his teaching, and we will continue to do so. He was a revolutionary. He was a radical rabbi. He taught things and brought things into consciousness at that time in that place that theretofore had never even been conceived. And so much so that many of the things that he taught were actually kind of sidelined as as the resultant beliefs, theologies were created around this particular man, not necessarily his teachings. So moving forward, I want to start back just a little bit before we get to the prayer itself. Holmes writes, "Your faith from blind belief into a thing of certainty." Your faith, take it from blind belief into a thing of certainty. How do we do this? How do you take your blind belief into a thing of certainty? And we do it through practice. You know, one of the things, even in the tools that psychology provides to individuals, as far as, you know, if they're struggling in their life experience, you know, daily commitment to practice. We have spiritual tools, spiritual practices that when we put them into effect and we apply them in our life on an ongoing, consistent basis, we see changes in our life expression. He says, this is what constitutes perfect faith. Practice will make this perfect, and you will soon discover that these things are true because you will be proving them. Understanding the law of faith and using it consciously causes you to become the arbiter of your own faith. We're setting out to do that today, to consciously put this into practice. If you're not familiar with New Thought, religious science, science of mind and spirit, you know, hang on, stick with us today as we go through this, because by the time we get to the end of the Lord's Prayer in this chapter that Dr. Holmes has written, you will have, if nothing else, a tool of affirmation and an understanding of that tool that you can apply, put into practice in your life. It's powerful. So he begins, Our Father. He says this suggests a universal sonship, childship, as well as an individual parenthood or fatherhood, spirit, parent mind. He says this universal sonship is referred to as the Christ within us, God within us, the power within us, life within us, however you choose to understand. At the core of your being, at the center of who you are, is the life principle. It is what breathes you. It is what sustains you. And it is that thing that when the physical body takes its last breath, the spiritual you, the true you, moves on. And that's what it is. Okay, so he says, as there is but one Father, so there is also only one Son. This divine incarnation is not something separate from our being. It's not separate from our being, but it is the very essence of that being. The core, the essence, the truth of who we are. We've talked about oftentimes our purpose in this life, our journey in this life, is to live life and to live it more abundantly, with a greater degree of livingness. And why is that? Because the divine consciousness lives through us, provided for us in potential, everything we could need, want, and desire as an individual to express our lives at greater and higher degrees of livingness. And as we do so, and in the process of doing so, there's a sense of accomplishment that we experience. You know, it's, for most people, it's not the winning of the race that is the ultimate. It is the practice that goes into it. That the winning is just kind of like the icing on the cake, if you will. And we continue to go back. New goals, new accomplishments. But it's always in the journey. So he says, it is this indwelling and overdwelling presence that we commune with. The divine within, the Christ within. The presence, the infinite presence of life of God that surrounds, that we are immersed in on the without. There's no place, no space where God is not. He says, which art? He says, this is a statement of absolute being. Our Father, which art? Our Father, the what is. This is it, and there is no other. And that's the point. He says it implies that which is, or the truth of being, the absolute cause, containing within itself the potentiality of all effect. There is a power and a presence for good in the universe that's available to each and every one of us. We're not talking about something way out there. We're not talking about something that you got to get on the phone to or telegraph or write a letter to. We're talking about a power and a presence for good that exists here and now, and your connectedness to it, the place where you go, is within yourself. Think on that. We're going to take our first break, and we'll pick it up from there when we come back.
Ghost Golf is Fresno's most spectacular family entertainment center. It's frightening how much fun you'll have on our 18-hole indoor haunted graveyard course. Skeletons welcome you, but watch out. All sorts of creatures may come to life. Ghost Golf is perfect for scary good parties, so book yours today. You'll get free plays at the Mummy Shooting Gallery, arcades, and air hockey. Check out our party and weekday specials online and like us on Facebook. Come play at family-friendly Ghost Golf. Good times will haunt you.
At McDermott Counseling, you will receive the highest level of care and a welcoming, safe space in which to discuss your most personal issues. Our therapists go above and beyond for you. Call 559-280-5756 or visit McDermottCounseling.com to find a caring therapist who best suits your needs.
Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at CondioPress.com and as ebooks at Amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at godsinspirationsblog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today. If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, it's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, 559-213-9430, and visit cleanmasterflood.com.
Hi, I'm the host of New Thought Talk, Reverend Steve Walling, and I want to take a moment today and give you an opportunity to support our ministry, support our show. You can do that through a PayPal payment. You send the payment through PayPal to the email address of Madera, MADERASAC @gmail.com. If you don't have a PayPal account, you can go down below the link and you can find where you can enter a debit or credit card. I want to thank those that have supported us and those that will continue to support us. You have a great day. Bye. Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling. We're going through The Art of Life by Dr. Ernest Holmes, or This Thing Called Life, as it was originally published under. Okay, when we went to break, we were at that point in the prayer, which art, and I said it's the what is. On the universal side, the what is, we're talking about, of course, divine principle, source, God, first cause, however you want to understand that. But on the individual level, he says it is the Christ within us, that power which exists within us, the God within us, okay? In heaven. And in heaven we look at, he says, the kingdom of heaven is to be found within us. It's not someplace outside of us. He says the creative power of spirit exists at the center of our own being. In heaven, in harmony, in all of the divine's fullness. There's nothing static in life. Life is energy. Energy can't be static. There's one life we talk about. That life is God, but that life is our life now, not our life. He says, our Father, which art in heaven, is ever flowing through us, giving birth to new and personal experiences. That moment this morning, as you were coming into consciousness for the day, I talk about it. It's the gift that divine that God has provided for you, for each of us, okay? Personal to each and every one of us. He says, hallowed be thy name. The exaltation, the jubilant and beholding soul of the universe. He says, Jesus proclaimed the wondrous name of God as the ineffable sweetness of the divine nature. Hallowed be thy name. Holy is thy name. we honor it. We honor it in thought, but we honor it also in our heart. Hallowed in our love. He says, thy kingdom come. The kingdom of God is joy. We talk about God or Spirit in many different ways, many different levels. We're talking about prayer, we're talking about demonstration, but in all ways, in all times, when we talk about the divine principle, when we talk about God, we're talking about bringing ourself, our individual beingness, what we say, or what I say, into alignment with principle. The relationship with the divine that each and every one of us experience is so incredibly personal, so incredibly individual, and yet it's part of an infinite greater whole of which we're all an integral piece of, a oneness, a unity. But at the core of its being within ourselves, it's power and love and joy. The kingdom of God is harmony and wholeness, he says. It is completion, perfection, and ultimately it is peace. You know, I've talked about many times on this show, if you want to, as an individual in today's life, and it can get kind of hectic out there, can it? But if you want to experience peace in life, it's not about going out into the world and declaring that the world must become peaceful so that we can enjoy it. It's about creating peace within ourselves. The kingdom of heaven is to be found within us. The point of our power is to be found within us. As we create that consciously within ourselves, that we create a life of peace, beingness for ourselves, that peace is demonstrated in the world around us. As we lift ourselves up through our raising up of our consciousness, we lift up those around us and beyond. It's an amazing. He says, it is this completion, the divine completion and perfection, that is so complete and so perfect that nothing else has to be added to it. Okay? The highest, he closes this segment off, he says, the highest treasure of this kingdom is love. Is love. Not goods, services, health, love. He says, thy will be done. He says, reason tells us that the will of God must be consistent with the nature of divine being. The nature of the divine being is what we've been talking about: peace, harmony, abundant, wholeness, perfection, ultimately love. Thy will. One of the things when people begin their spiritual journey in a new thought, whether it's religious science or unity or divine science or UFBL or whatever, in one of the different new thought teachings organizations, they get caught up on what I'll say is the prosperity side of it, or maybe the healing side. The place where the ground zero, if you will, the place where we need to start is to align ourselves with the divine itself. And what I mean by aligning ourselves is bringing our consciousness, the trend of thought, how we think, what we allow to stream through our mind, into alignment with divine principle, with God. And as I said, just as Holmes closed off the previous segment, he says the highest treasure of the kingdom is love. That's where we start. We start with love within ourselves. As we start there, we bring more love into the world. Love is one of those things that it's ever available, but it has to be generated from the individuals, and that's each and every human being on the face of the planet has the potential to generate it. But it's the only way it gets out there. He says, in earth as it is in heaven, he says, it is said that one of the disciples of Jesus asked him when the kingdom of heaven would come on earth, and he answered, when the without shall become as the within. Creating that love within ourselves will create the love without. Today, so many people are seeking to create a world. They want to create a world. They know that they can go out and create a world, but they can't, and they don't start with that inner beingness. This is where creation truly takes place. This is where creation is. This is where you could say our PowerPoint is. This is where all the good that's going to be expressed in our life in the world, this is where it comes from. He says, and this, he says, and we're going to take some time on this. Thy will be done, okay, in earth as it is in heaven. It is said that one of the disciples, okay, I said that, it takes place within ourselves. This is so important. He says, the concept of inner perfection really runs through much of our modern psychological teaching, which, although and almost unwittingly is based on the supposition that there is an inner principle of perfection, that nature is already complete, and that if we could restore our emotional reactions to the equilibrium of nature, we should reintegrate the personality within ourselves. And it's, I think about this a lot. Maybe that's why, as I was going through this, that, I had to pause and reflect. Within ourselves, how much time do we make as a set aside for ourselves in our day? How much time do we seek to get in touch with the truth of who we are? That begs the question, how important are we to ourselves? So often we're caught up in how important we need to be to somebody else, or how important somebody else or something else or some things, some circumstances need to be to us. It's here. This is where it starts. This is where we take it to the world. This is where the world changes. We have to own that within ourselves. That can be a hard concept sometimes when we look out the window of our hearts and through our eyes, and we see so much that we want to see better in the world. And we miss the first and most important step. And so we stumble. And that's been the history of humanity. Humanity has grown in consciousness, grown in goodness in so many ways, but yet there is nothing out of the history of humankind in all of the dastardly things that were done that you can't find someplace in the world today that it's still being done. It shouldn't be that way. Dr. Holmes believed that we could change the world, but he believed we changed the world by changing ourselves. So he took time as he was going through this particular prayer to kind of make these points and lay the importance of where we have to be, where we start, and where we do this, okay? He says, moving on, he says, I want to go back here. This concept of inner perfection really runs through much of our modern psychology. We got that? He says, this is where we would be made whole. He says, this sheds a new light on the remarkable saying of Jesus when he told us to be perfect without, even as we are already perfect within. To be perfect without, even as we are already perfect within. He says, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. The broad scope of this revelation of Jesus includes humanity and all that we are, okay? It announces that God is all there is. Life is perfect. Its freedom and joy are available. when we say life is perfect, then you look outside yourself and you go, well, perfect what? Potentially, it is. We can create a new life, a new world order. And when we all get on board, not by telling other people, but by creating it within ourselves, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, the world will take care of itself. Okay, we're going to take our next break. I'll see you when we come back.
If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, it's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, 559-213-9430, and visit cleanmasterflood.com.
We forget about the higher good of food, right? You're growing a product that people enjoy really all over the world. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I think about that all the time. I think about the families sitting around a table, enjoying a meal. I just see that what we do brings families together.
I mean, we're blessed. We're in paradise for food.
The Kern family of the Kern Family Farm invites you to eat delicious, nutritious, organic produce available at the Gnarly Carrot. Located at 32954 Road 222 in North Fork, California, the Gnarly Carrot is a local, natural, seasonally changing market offering a wide range of products from local Central Valley vendors. Get your caffeine fix, grab a smoothie, and support small businesses. Learn more at kernfamilyfarm.com and visit the Gnarly Carrot today. Are you thinking of selling your home? Since 2004, the Souza Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has specialized in premier property listings and sales located in the Clovis Unified and North Fresno markets. The Souza Group will do their best to exceed your expectations. Visit clovisunifiedhomes.com. Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, and I'm just going to pick it up right here. Give us is the next part of this. And he quotes Browning, and Browning says, "'Tis thou, God, who givest, 'tis I who receive." You know, Holmes goes on, he says, "As manna from heaven, the divine bounty supplies our human needs when the divine will is complied with." The divine will. We often think of the divine will in anthropomorphic or humanistic terms. But the divine will is really just aligning ourselves in our consciousness in mind with principles. It's like if you recall the old days in the early days of computers, where you had these cables to plug various things into the box that was the computer, and they had like 1,000 pins in them, okay? And they went into male went into a female receptacle that had 1,000 holes. It only took one pin to be out of alignment, and the plug wouldn't go in. And you think, but 999 of them were perfectly aligned, but that one wasn't. And it's kind of the same thing when we talk about aligning ourselves with consciousness. You know, there's there's a saying that Holmes says that goes something to the effect that God knows us only at the level that we know ourselves. And that's true. But that's also the limiting factor. God knows us exactly at the level we know ourselves, which means there's no dark closet or dark corner in our mind or our consciousness where we can hold something within our hearts, our minds, that we know that's not in alignment with truth. We oftentimes, we hold these things in the darkest of the night. We pull them out and we, kind of lick our wounds over them, and then we put them back thinking that, because the rest of the world doesn't see it, we're good to go. But it's not about the rest of the world seeing it. It's about us being in alignment with the divine principle. God gives to us constantly, consistently. But we also have to be able to receive. And in order to put ourselves in that state of receptivity, there's a couple of very important things that have to take place. One, we've got to have faith. Two, we have to understand our place in our hearts and minds in that alignment with principle. And three, we have to accept. And oftentimes, even though the first two may be difficult, for some people, that third one is almost impossible for many different reasons. But we have to be able to receive in our hearts and our minds. We have to be willing to receive. If we're purposed to live life and to live it at a higher and greater degree of livingness, and if in potential everything is provided for us that we could need, want, and desire to live life at that level, then we got to take it. We take it, again, through faith, belief, aligning ourselves with principle. And so he says, it is the nature of the divine to give. It is the nature of man to receive, not some of the gifts of life, but all of them. The Father which art in heaven, the Father which art holds within himself all the gifts of life, peace, joy, happiness, eternal and ever increasing, and self-expression, and ultimately love. But we got to receive. We got to open ourselves up. We got to be accepting. There's so much that's there. We could spend probably a couple of shows going over. He says the gift consciously must be received. Our fears, lacks, limitations, worries pathetically suggest how inadequate our receiving has been. To fulfill the divine givingness, we must set up an equal receivingness. We got to set it up. It's up to you. It's up to me. But when we do, it's an amazing thing how things unfold in our life. And then the next two words are this day. Now. Today. Not tomorrow. This moment. This present time in which we are living. Consider that. And as I just said that, consider how you, in your own mind, as you were listening, as you were watching this, how you receive that as a thought within yourself. How did that go? Where did it go? Did you go, oh yeah, sure? Or did you go, yeah, right now, I'm on board. I got it. He says, this day, he says, give us our daily bread. Our daily bread means whatever we need, whenever we need it, wherever we need it, and for as long as we need it. Now, it's at this point sometimes where people they kind of get sidetracked into the concept of, this is all about prosperity and abundance. And it's true. There is prosperity and abundance. There is harmony. There is life expression. There is relationships. There is health. There is joy, peace, happiness, all that stuff, right? It's true. But more importantly, there's where we place ourselves within our consciousness, because that ultimately is what sets the foundation for all the rest of that, how it expresses. If we seek to get, the getting will probably be pretty thin. But when we seek to give, the receiving will be at the level we open ourselves up to be receptive. And that's the lesson. And so he goes on to say, he says, forgive us our debts. He says, Spirit is not only the giver, but is the forgiver. When we come into the light, we are in the light. And in that light, there is no darkness. So Jesus taught that as we turn to God, he turns to us. It turns to us. And this takes us back to what I said not too long ago about God knows us. Principle knows us as we know ourselves. Forgive us our debts. Okay, so we know ourselves. And we know where those dark corners are. You say, okay, all that stuff, right? Got that, but. There is no but. The light does not need a pass to eliminate the darkness. We just open ourselves up to the light. So, no matter where you're at, when you open yourself up within yourself, the forgiveness is there. Just like everything else that divine principle has provided for us in potential, so is forgiveness and all that means. He says, the Father did not condemn the prodigal upon his return, but embraced him. The eternal nature is love and givingness. Thus Jesus said that to him who loves, much is forgiven. It wasn't the other way around. It starts with to him, to her, to us, to the individual, to you, to me. Love comes first in all ways and in all things. That love that goes beyond really our ability to understand, that love that extends beyond our desire to hold a grudge or to be at odds with our fellow human being. We don't have to agree with them. But there's still God expressed as them. There is no place, there's no space where God is not. We cannot turn our backs on the truth. But when we embrace the truth, it is truly the truth that will set us free as individuals and as humanity. He says the eternal nature of love and givingness, the eternal nature is love and givingness, and thus Jesus said that to him who loves much is forgiven, which explains the very next clause, which is, as we forgive our debtors. And so there you go, okay? We just move forward into that. He says the action between the universal and the individual is reciprocal. Okay, it's a journey, and maybe we're climbing the mountain, and maybe for us, each individually, that mountain may be steep. It may be sometimes a hard climb, sometimes an easy climb, but for every forward step we take, we move forward. We get closer. The ground moves behind us. The past becomes further distant. The action between the universal and the individual is reciprocal. The universal turns to us as we turn towards it. What is this but an illustration that man's own thought and act condemn him or her, and that his or her own thought and act release him or her from condemnation according to the law of cause and effect? You know, an amazing thing, this law of cause and effect, and we've talked about it many times in many ways. Sometimes we call it the great law or various other things. You know, sometimes it's called karma. But the amazing thing about this is, and it really is truly amazing because society and life has told us for so long that, you know, there's just some things that you have to pay that price for. But when you realize that you can change your position within the law of cause and effect, yes, it's true, sometimes you have to be responsible and take responsibility. But you can change your place within that law. And if it's just within your own personal life, as you do that within yourself, your life will do that also. How awesome is that? He says, what is this but an illustration that man's own thought and act condemn him or her? That his own thought and act release him or her from that condemnation. There is no sin but a mistake, and no punishment but a consequence. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Perhaps one of the greatest phrases in sacred literature places immediate salvation within the reach of all, but automatically causes us to suffer so long as we impose suffering. And it's upon ourselves from within ourselves that imposing takes place. And it's there that we can turn and find true freedom within ourselves. We'll take our last break, and I'll see you when we come back.
With Organic Pastures Raw Milk, you're getting a product that has been meticulously managed from grass to glass. From our pastures to our dairy, creamery, and distribution, we work hard to produce a product that is safe and clean for you.
Got lactose intolerance or dairy allergies? Discover delicious raw milk and discover dairy the way it's supposed to be. We provide tours and would love to see you. Come visit the cows, watch the milking, the cheese being made, and learn all about raw milk. We're just 20 miles south and west of Fresno, California. Call to schedule a tour at 559-846-9732.
The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find the Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine, available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Are you thinking of selling your home? Since 2004, the Souza Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has specialized in premier property listings and sales located in the Clovis Unified and North Fresno markets. The Souza Group will do their best to exceed your expectations. Visit clovisunifiedhomes.com.
Is everything in life draining you? Come to Stretch 360. Our professional staff can offer you many options for relaxation like deep tissue or hot stone massages, infrared medical grade sauna. Once you leave us, you'll look and feel like $1,000,000. Stretch 360. Relaxation is only a stretch away.
Doctor in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. Wow. As we're going through this, and we're getting near the end, keep in mind that when we talk about prayer, we're not talking about 411 or 911ing God out there somewhere. We're talking about statements that we make within our own heart, our own mind, our own consciousness. So, when we get to things like forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and as we're going to come up, and lead us not into temptation. These are concepts that we are speaking to ourselves with an understanding of we are the ultimate responders, purveyors, creators of the ideas and of the reception of the ideas. So forgive us our debts. We can claim that as we forgive our debtors. We remind ourselves how important that is. And then, and lead us not into temptation. It's not that, and given the time when this was originally taught to a group of individuals that believed that there was a external force, if you will, that could lead them anywhere. We know today that the leading, there is no external anything outside of ourselves. You know, one of the greatest lessons we can learn in life is that ultimately we always do what it is that we want to do. And that may be hard for some people to believe. And oftentimes we have our stories, well, I had no other option. Well, there are other options, but our mind oftentimes immediately eliminates some, and maybe it only leaves one. And maybe it wasn't a good choice to begin with. But the fact that we made the choice is where we have to start. So we can't be led into temptation, but we can allow ourselves to not hold ourselves to the principles that we say that we believe in and have faith in, to align ourselves with the divine principle. You know, it's what I was saying earlier, that God knows us as we know ourselves. There's no deals to be made. Sometimes we often try to make deals. The law of cause and effect is the law of cause and effect. And it's pretty much what is. So, and lead us not into temptation. Holmes tells us, he says, this is not so much a supplication as it is a statement of spiritual conviction, a statement that we make about our spiritual conviction. He says, Spirit obviously cannot lead us into temptation. But he goes on in this next segment, he says, but deliver us from evil. He says, the divine nature does not lead us into temptation, but delivers us from evil, just as light delivers the darkness. And that's the power that is present within each and every one of us, that is available to us. When we turn to it, it turns to us, okay? Delivers us from, and evil, oftentimes people think of like some dastardly deed or individual, but evil can be hardship in life, things that create sadness, unhappiness, and many other things. When you realize that you have a bigger God than anything that life can bring at you, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be some struggle to overcome, but the overcoming is available. You have a bigger God. He says, for thine is the kingdom and the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. He says, this kingdom, this power, and this glory never change. They are ever present, infinite, ever available. The truth is forever established, eternal in its infancy, eternal in its maturity. It knows no decay. Even though life has already provided for our good, we must accept that good. And accepting it is not saying that I want it. Accepting it is a doingness and a state of beingness that we are called upon. And oftentimes when I talk to people about that, they get some kind of a image in their mind like, oh, what am I going to have to give up? Or I'm going to have to, and it's not about giving up on anything. It's about refocusing in our life expression and experience. When we begin to realize that in potential, as I've said many times, that which we need, want, and desire, which affirms us and takes nothing from anyone else, is available to us in potential if we can believe within ourselves that it's available in potential, and we seek to achieve it, to accomplish it, to experience it. You wouldn't have the desire if there wasn't a path to that particular end point. And truth be told, sometimes on our journeys, we may divert from the path to pick up another path. And maybe we never get to the end point that we originally set out to do, because it really wasn't to be our end point. But during the journey, as we make our diversion, where we end up is exactly where we need to be, and if we had thought about it initially, would have been where we had wanted to be. Sometimes we don't think about it because oftentimes we think of things as being too far beyond us. I can never do that. I can't accomplish that, because where I come from, who I am, what's available, what my age, education, orientation, whatever, okay? And we seek to bind ourselves, not intentionally, but by our own self-definitions of the limitedness that we have known ourselves to be. It's not our truth. Our truth is that we are divine principle. We are God. We are good, expressed as us, as individuals. And I said before, and I'm going to reaffirm it here, our purpose in this life is to live life at a higher, greater degree of livingness. That's awesome when we realize that for ourselves. It's incredible when we choose to put that into practice in our lives, and it's amazing as we begin to see the results that are available, that we can experience, that are ours in truth. And so he closes with, and so it is, amen. He says, therefore, we must make some kind of demand upon this power. If we don't make the demand upon it, it won't respond. We have to make the demand. But in the making of the demand, we make it with the intention and expectation that the response is already in a state of beingness. The reality is there, just not in our experience at this point in time. But at the level of belief, it will be provided, done unto us. So the story goes. So, okay, this finishes up chapter 6 in the Art of Life, or this thing called life. So next week when we come back, we'll pick it up on chapter 7, and we may move a little bit faster. I'm not sure. I haven't fully previewed that chapter yet. Maybe we can get through it and into 8. But I hope you've appreciated what we've gone through today. I hope you will take and maybe even go back and watch it again a time or two, take notes, put it into practice in your life. You are an important and incredible being. Your expression here is necessary, or otherwise you wouldn't be here. Own that, know it. If you have any questions, of course, you can always reach me through our email. I do respond. Oftentimes I've received requests for treatment, and I also respond for that. There are, I think there's about 200 YouTubes out there on our YouTube site. One of these days I got to get around and put the whole YouTube channel thing together where you can go. But you can look us up. There's a lot of stuff out there on YouTube, cover a lot of different aspects of religious science, science of mind. And I love hearing from you. So, feel free to get a hold of us. And I'm going to close off, as I do most each week, with the idea, the concept that the light of God surrounds you and the love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Because truly, wherever you are, God is there. Therefore, all must be well for you. Have a great week. I'll see you when we come back.